In Arsenal's huge 2-0 win over Manchester United at the Emirates Stadium, there were several standout performances. I made a video about William Saliba. I thought Timber was really good. Bukayo Saka had his moments. Nicolas Jova, of course, was the man of the match, if you want to say. But to me, it was a Declan Rice masterclass. Him and Saliba probably 50-50 for my man of the match. And I think Declan Rice, outside of that first half performance from him, in that second half, he was immense. And I think he was so pivotal to the reason we won the game, outside of getting his assist. Now, like I mentioned, the first half from Declan Rice and from Arsenal as a whole was kind of frustrating to watch. It was a cagey, low-tempo affair. Only 5 shots combined between the two sides, 3 for Arsenal, 2 for Manchester United. And like I said, Declan Rice himself was relatively quiet during these opening 45 minutes. It wasn't bad from him, but it wasn't the commanding performance we'd come to expect from him in these huge type of games. The slow start did make sense. Of course, Amorim's Manchester United team are still getting to grips with Amorim's system, and they're coming up against arguably one of the best teams in the Premier League right now. So of course, it was normal to expect a cagey, low-tempo first half. I didn't really expect the second half to burst into life quite like it did, but boy oh boy did it. But even in the first half, when it was more relatively quiet, Rice still did his part. I mean, he was still holding his position well. He was still sniffing out any Manchester United counterattacks. He was making sure that Arsenal stayed solid in defense. But after the break, it was a completely different story. Rice came out as a beast. His energy and his quick thinking completely flipped the midfield battle. He was driving Arsenal forward with these powerful runs that we know him for, and Manchester United simply couldn't handle him. I mean, just look at Declan Rice's stats from the game. Of course, he got a crucial assist from the game. He had 35 out of 40 accurate passes, 3 chances created from midfield, 2 block shots, 56 touches, 4 passes into the final third, 3 out of 7 accurate crosses, 2 out of 2 long balls, 4 defensive actions, 8 recoveries, 7 duels won, just 1 duel lost, 3 out of 3 ground duels. And most of those stats come from Declan Rice's second half performance. That's how much of a menace he was in the second half. And then his assist, it was so crucial because it finally opened up the deadlock. It was a peach of a corner for Timber's opener. Perfect pace, perfect trajectory, right into the danger zone. Timber just needed to get a touch and boom, it's 1-0 Arsenal. Rice now has 7 Premier League assists from set pieces since the start of last season, the same as Bukayo Saka, and he has more Premier League assists in the last 2 seasons than Phil Foden. It's wild how good Rice has become now at dead ball situations. I mean, I remember the first time he ever took a corner, all of us were like, what are you doing, Declan? Get back in, we need you to header, you're tall, you're big. But his deliveries are just lethal, they're just that good. Onana, who's actually been really good for United this season, well, he had no answer for everything either. And by the end of the game, Arsenal's dominance was clear. 2.33 expected goals compared to United's 0.31. And while Saliba and Timber rightfully get the headlines for their performances, as well as Nicolas Jova, Rice was the engine. His second half performance, the injection of energy combined with his ability to win duels and deliver from set pieces, well, it made the difference. And yes, Thomas Partey was absolutely outstanding in midfield as well, but I really thought what Declan Rice did against the likes of Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho, Ugarte, Dalot, I think he was really impressive, especially when they tried to crowd the midfield, when they tried to play really hard. Declan Rice was getting into crunching tackles, and made it an extremely tough time for their midfield. Bruno Fernandes had probably his worst performance under Ruben Amorim already because Declan Rice did so well. Again, yes, Thomas Partey had a say in that, but I thought Declan Rice, especially in that second half, was the reason Manchester United couldn't really get anything going at all. Mason Mount as well, someone who everyone's been thinking will do really well under Ruben Amorim, well, he struggled in his 60 minutes against Declan Rice. Even in the first half when Declan Rice was quote-unquote quieter, he was pocketing Mason Mount. I can't remember anything that Mason Mount did that was worth noting, and Declan Rice did so well to keep him quiet. He's not just Arsenal's midfield anchor anymore. Last season, we saw this £105 million player kind of as a world-class number 6 because he was at the time, but the more we've seen him play, and I've been saying this since about January of this year, that I think Declan Rice's best position is when he plays as a box-to-box midfielder or as an 8, kind of on the left-hand side of midfield, because it allows him to still defend, helping out Thomas Partey, but allows him to have these driving runs forward, allows him to get stuck in higher up on the pitch. And I mean, we're seeing this with these types of performances. Now, yes, his season so far hasn't been outstanding. This is arguably one of his best performances of a season, and it wasn't even a good 90-minute performance. It was a really good 45-minute performance, but it's still extremely positive to see, especially when it's coming up against a Ruben Amorim team who really likes to crowd that midfield as much as they do. Declan Rice might not grab the goals like a lot of other people do, but performances like this shows why he's so invaluable to Arsenal and our title hopes. And the thing is, he's still 25, so he still has about 2 years before he reaches his peak, and if he can keep these performances up now on a consistent basis like he did last season, well, the best of Declan Rice is still ahead of us. This was a huge game, a huge performance from a lot of different players, but Declan Rice deserves his plaudits.